and welcome to the Independence Missouri School District Board of Education School Board meeting. I welcome you. My name is Anthony J. Mondane Sr., and I'm presiding at this meeting, fulfilling the role of Vice President. I want to thank you again for being here with us. I will now entertain a motion to approve the agenda this evening.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All right, it has been motioned and seconded. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please. Or all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. No one wants their name called this evening, guys. All right, our next item on our agenda is request of district citizens or employees. And I want to share this policy with you. Addresses, Board Policy C-140P addresses comments by the public in the Board of Education meetings and states that a total of 30 minutes are allocated for public comment. Each individual or set of parents are allotted 5 minutes to make remarks. We ask individuals to give their names and home address prior to their statement. Comments or questions are not to be addressed to individuals on the dais. If you would like to address the Board of Education regarding a student matter, personnel matter, or potential legal matter, the issue can only be heard in closed session. Comments are only made related directly to an agenda item. And the guest that we have this evening to speak. Alrighty, our third item is the consent agenda, the approval of the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It has been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion. Sorry. Is there discussion?
Yes. Me. Okay, I was waiting for discussion. All right, we do have bills totaling $14,502,740.54. This is up from last year at this time. This is due to some updates around the district. We had sound panels installed at all elementary schools, transportation costs for McKinney-Vento, foster care, and contractual placements. We had concrete work across the district. If you've driven by Chrysler Stadium, you'll see some improvements there, and improvements to that wall that was falling in towards 23rd Street. HVAC service and replacement, payment for many of the projects that took place over Christmas break. So those are the reasons there. We also have approval to let bids for the abatement services at Fairmount Elementary School. This will be contingent upon bond approval. This is for asbestos and lead paint. Approval to let bids for district chemical, lamination film, custodial equipment, and consumable supplies. These will be items for next year, and this is would come from general operating funds. Approval to let bids for carpet, stair tread, cove base, rubber tile landings, and LVT and VCT at district buildings. This would come from capital, and this would be for Project Shine and other district buildings. And annual upkeep. Approval to let bids for epoxy flooring finishings, and Cimarazzo at district buildings. This would come from capital. Also, again, for Project Shine and other district buildings and annual upkeep. Approval to let bids for painting at district buildings from capital. This will be for Project Shine and other district buildings. And approval to let bids for replacement of interior and exterior doors at district buildings. This would come from capital. Significant to Bryant Elementary for those replacement in doors and at some of the high schools. So that's what we have going on for our consent agenda.
Since it was mentioned, do we know yet what the Project Shine schools are?
Ott and Little Blue. I got it right?
Any more discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Speak now. Motion passes. This is now, I will entertain a motion to approve. Okay. We will now have the superintendent's report.
Nothing, I was fine with it all. It's all right, it's all good. All right, superintendent's report. So I will be making bond presentations to numerous stakeholder groups throughout the spring prior to the election to share basic information regarding the bond. We kicked off last week by presenting to Fairmount staff. It was very well received, and a video has been sent to all district staff and families sharing the information, and it's a very exciting time. As we heard earlier this evening during our work session from Dr. Hurl regarding the situation with assessed valuation in Jackson County, I just want to reiterate a few items because we do have more individuals here this evening with us during the regular session. The ISD will lose nearly $60 million in AV for commercial, which will hit our 2025 district AV, which will result in nearly a $3 million loss for this current year. With the AV cap for 23 and 24 for residential properties and district AV loss is over $135 million, resulting in a revenue reduction of $11.5 million over 3 years. It's also important to mention Senate Bill 190 that provided the senior property tax relief, and that will result in a loss of nearly $900,000 this fiscal year. We are continuing to monitor this activity and the activity that is taking place in Jefferson City. There are a couple of bills to bring to your attention that we're keeping a very close eye on. House Bill 1766, this would change how increases in personal property valuation are treated for tax levy calculations by excluding those increases from being counted as new construction. While intended to limit rapid valuation growth, this change would have a direct and negative impact on district revenues. Based on the 2025 tax information, House Bill 1766 would result in a revenue loss of $746,406 to the independent school district. House Bill 2709 makes changes to property tax levy calculations and rate setting provisions, including revisions to how assessed valuation growth and levy adjustments are applied to political subdivisions. Although framed as property tax reform, the bills would significantly reduce school funding. Based on these current projections, House Bill 2709 would reduce the ISD revenue by $1.5 million annually. A reduction of this magnitude directly impacts funding for classrooms, maintaining staffing levels, and providing student services, and how to sustain essential educational programs. On a positive note, the ISD is positioned well for our fiscal responsibility, due to our fiscal responsibility and current fund balances. However, it will be extremely important to clearly understand and monitor the situation with Jackson County and what is occurring at the state level. So we've got to keep our eye on that. In support, our Human Resources Department has been on the move. It is hiring season. And in support of recruitment efforts, HR has actively engaged in outreach since January by attending career fairs at William Jewell College, University of Missouri, Kansas City. This week, I believe they're at MU and Pitt State, so they're going to continue those recruitment efforts there as well. So that is what I have for superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Grant. Do you have any additional questions or comments?
I just wanted to comment that Dr. Hurl made mention that the Nebius project could generate up to $27 million a year by 2030. So that is a significant, I would even say, transformational revenue opportunity. And I just wonder if there's things that we can do as a board to try to support that. I know City Council is going to be voting on a Chapter 100 on March the 3rd, 2nd or 3rd, I'm not sure. Anyway, just anything that we can do to try to support that, because that would be a significant increase in revenue for the district.
Well, and I think it's continuing to share information, right? And get that information out there and what we're monitoring and what it can do for the district as a whole.
To piggyback on that, one of the things that I thought that the district did with the 4-day school week that was very effective was the one-pager. Is that anything that you have in mind for some of these challenges and also for the bond?
Yes, we are working on a one-pager as well as a PowerPoint presentation. The groups that I'm going to speak at, sometimes it's not always possible to have a PowerPoint presentation. However, there will be a one-pager that people can take that shares accurate information. Also, I would encourage people to go to the district site that lists all of the projects that will be considered and all of the information.
Thank you.
Lots of really good information being shared this evening. Any additional comments or questions for Dr. Grant at this time?
I have one more question. Is it possible to get the financial information in some kind of consumable format too? Considering we're asking voters to approve a bond, which will be wonderful and transformative for Fairmount Elementary and elsewhere within the district. I think it's also important to note that our reserves, while high, there's a reason for that, and there's a plan for that, and everything that Dr. Hurl shared earlier would be helpful to include in that as well, just where we are and where we could be if we didn't have that kind of deal. Are there any plans to produce something or to
So I guess
help
my
folks
question would be, are
understand
you
in relation
wanting-
with the bond?
So are you wanting the bond funds? Because bonds are completely separate than what we talked about today. Bonds will be for construction projects and those types of things.
No, I understand, but folks might say, oh, you guys have plenty of money. Like, how do we
Gotcha.
combat that argument?
Yes, we can work on that for the one-pager.
Thank you, Director Baird. Thank you, Dr. Grant. I've asked a few times, but I want to ask again. It's totally welcome if you guys have any other questions or comments for Dr. Grant. I'm sure she's ready to answer. All right, fantastic. Thank you again. We will now move on to new business. Our first item is the approval of Independence School District Emergency Operations Plan.
I move that we approve the emergency operations plan.
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Motion passes. All right, our second item this evening is the approval of the Independent School District Employee Assistance Program, EAP. I will entertain a motion for approval. Need a second.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion, any questions?
I will turn it over to Dr. Stout.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Grant. Good evening, board members. The district worked closely with CBIZ to conduct an RFP for EAP, or Employee Assistance Program Plan Options. We are at the end of a 3-year agreement with our current provider, CareLink, so we thought it was a good opportunity to put it out for bid, see what came our way. This evening, we're recommending that we move to ComPsych. The bid tab was included for you to preview. A couple of interesting facts about ComPsych. One, it's the largest EAP provider, partnering with over 78,000 organizations, 1,000 school districts, and 40% of the Fortune 500 companies. 105,000 clinical providers work in this network. Dedicated phone number for ISD staff and families will be provided. Phones are answered by folks having a master's or doctorate level counselor, and they will answer it in under 10 seconds is what they've told us. And all of these things led us to making the move to ComPsych, along with the fact that they will meet what our current price rate is, and they put a rate guarantee on for 5 years. So we were very happy with that as well. So this evening, we're asking the board to approve them as our EAP provider moving forward for 5 years with this rate guarantee. Thank you. Happy to answer your questions.
While the rate guarantee is phenomenal, I did see that the first year matched our current provider. Do we have plans to assist with the transition? Will there be any bumps for existing employees to switch? I mean, it's always a pain when you have to switch what you've been using. This is a little different than like health insurance, but
No, great question, Wendy. Yes, and I work closely with Levi Henson. So once the board approves this, there's a number of things that will go into play as far as communication out to our staff and their families about what this transition looks like and what are the contact numbers and things like that. And that won't be a one and done. There's several little things that are going to happen between now and April 1st.
And the services look pretty comparable.
Very much so, and actually more robust. And like I said, our previous provider was very good. I can tell you just personally, in working with a few situations within the district, I thought they were excellent in answering the phone. Some of the concerns, some of the hiccups that I've heard were then the follow-up conversations. They'd say, hey, no problem, we'll get something set. Somebody will be reaching back out to you. And we found ourselves having to call them again. And that was kind of disheartening. So we're hopeful with how much broader this scope is of support pieces and personnel that we can address that.
Dr. Stout, I apologize. I was not as attentive as I'd like to be when you were speaking. I was taking some notes. So I do have two questions for you. With this new EAP provider, are other school districts acclimated with this provider?
There's many school districts
Locally?
across the country. Locally, I believe so, but I don't recall which they are. I can get you that information. I know
Okay.
we're not the only one in the metro, however.
Okay, that'd be good to know. And then you may have mentioned this, and I apologize again. As far as to piggyback somewhat on Wendy's, Director Baird's question, the persons who may be using EAP right now, those providers that they're using, when we convert, will those providers still be considered as in-network, or will it then be?
No, that's an excellent question. So once it ends on April 1st, we kind of sever those ties and we start anew. So as like I said, after tonight, we put some steps into place between now and April 1st that helps in that transition that, hey, if you are receiving services or if you've got a few more sessions set, here's a contact and here's how we'll continue that plan.
Okay. That is a little, I mean, I do pause on that just a bit, just because I do have a background in mental health and substance abuse services, and that can be devastating to some people. So hopefully there's just some thorough thought processes and ways that we can mitigate any gaps. Once you have a good provider that has helped, people usually like to stay with them. But this is really a good program, and I understand why we're making the move, especially with hearing that they haven't been as responsive. That could be a really big deal. But I am concerned with folks who might have an existing provider that might not be in network anymore.
Yeah, I appreciate your concern, and I will look into that further. Director Mondane, like I said, my understanding is that it's the fact that we've got 6 weeks until this transition occurs that will certainly help with that transition. So I'm hopeful that that's the case, and if there's anybody that has specific concerns, certainly I don't want to know their itinerary, but I'll certainly help in making sure that they're in tune with the right people.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Thank you. Our third item is approval to accept the project ADAM-MEMSA Heart Safe Schools Grant. Dr. Grant. I need a motion. Thank you.
Second.
Dr. Grant.
Go, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Stout.
Okay. Thanks again.
I got confused by Grant. No.
Lori Halsey has worked closely with Children's Mercy in fulfilling all requirements to allow our schools, along with IANT and central office, to be designated as heart-safe schools. This designation qualifies the district to receive grant funding for our 27 Title I schools. So this evening, we would ask that the Board of Education approve grant funding for 69 AED units in the amount of $143,382. I greatly appreciate Lori's work on this. She came to me within the last 10 days. She was very excited. She's done a lot of work, as Peter mentioned, even in his presentation this evening. She's worked closely with Children's Mercy, and a couple of conversations led to a little bit of paperwork, and then all of a sudden we were notified that we're going to receive a substantial grant, which will help fund some of these things that are going to be required for state legislation. So we're very excited about that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Stout, this was a part of the emergency operations plan that we just heard about
Correct.
and implementation. So
Yes.
this will allow all of that to be implemented.
further discussion or questions?
No, but excited to see a grant pay for it. So, wonderful.
All righty, if no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Thank you. Our fourth item is approval of FY26 budget amendment.
I move that we approve the FY '26 budget amendment.
Got a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All right, this is something we do annually, and Marty Gardner is here to share this with us.
This motion is an addition to the original FY26 budget to reflect the overall carryovers and updated department and grant allocations that were not finalized at the time of the original budget approval. Each year, once the school year has finished and the building budgets are closed, remaining supply balances that the schools have get carried over into this current year, so that money is still available for school use. Department budget, and that amount was $546,312.51 that we gave back to the buildings to use for this year. Department budget adjustments totaled $3,618,942.14 and reflect operational and facility needs identified throughout the year. Capital technology adjustments included technology purchases that were appropriately reclassified to capital, so those monies were in general and we just moved them to capital because that's where the needs were. Facility-related adjustments include furniture purchases based on building input, contracted services for security camera requests and facility improvements across multiple buildings. Notably, projects include lighting updates, locker room renovations, classroom space reconfigurations, perimeter fencing around Sherman's football field to help protect the students, and addition of program spaces in other district buildings. This amendment also incorporates updated grant allocations totaling approximately $4.2 million. Several grant award amounts were not available at the time of the original budget approval and since have been finalized. Significant grant increases include special education units of effort, adult education and literacy, the evidence-based reading instruction, which are budgeted once we get that award amount. So the amendment also reflects the closeout of the federally funded FY24-25 Federally Head Start grant and Early Head Start. That grant runs from November to October. So once all the expenses have been paid for in October, we do the final budget adjustment since it crosses years. Since our fiscal year is June 30 and this is October, we go ahead and tie up the expenses. So that's why you'll see the budget adjustment for that. You will also see another one with the new grant that started in November, and that one will happen at my next request for a budget amendment. Some grants reflected reduced award amounts, including the CTE enhancement grant. It was allocated at over $300,000, and the state came in and dropped it to $34,000. And the Kauffman Foundation Design and Planning Grant also went away. In addition, the amendment includes restricted donations and foundation grants. All grant and donation funds included in this item are restricted to their intended purpose. Administration recommends approval of the budget amendment to ensure the district's budget accurately reflects finalized funding and approved expenditures at this time. And I don't like to public speak, so there's that.
Great job. Great job. Great job.
I thought that was great, very
Yeah, great
detailed,
job.
really appreciate it. I just want to make sure my understanding is that when we do these budget adjustments, that in general, we're not increasing or decreasing the amount of expense or income. We're just reflecting where some of the changes that have to be made in the spending based on grants and or changes that are required by the state. Just want to make sure that I
Correct.
understand that correctly.
We could increase the budget if we get a new grant, and now we get $4 more million in revenue and $4 more million in expenses. You're going to see that increase because we weren't expecting it. But a lot of it is just reallocation of accounts.
I would like to sign up for that, getting the extra grant. Can I sign up for that?
I would too. Any other questions?
All right,
Thank you.
great job, thank you. All righty, thank you again. If there are no more questions or concerns, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Our fifth item is approval of preliminary budget for ordering the next year's supplies. I will entertain a motion. Thank you.
All right. So this is something we do each year in order to prepare for next year, to approve a preliminary budget for supplies for next year. This allows us to order supplies so that they can be here for the start of the school year, and teachers can put in what they need, departments as well. So this is something that we just do each year, and we would ask for your approval.
All righty. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, motion passes. Our last item for this evening is the approval of 2026-2027 school year calendar. I will entertain a motion.
Second?
Any discussion?
All right. I have Dr. Plater here to share some information regarding the calendar.
Good evening. How's everybody doing today? All right, this evening. I'm going to share, hopefully in front of you had the proposed calendar that the calendar committee had discussed and voted on and so forth to present to you all. I was just going to share a few things about the calendar committee, just some considerations we have to take into account when we were deciding what the calendar would look like, and then some of those changes for the 26-27 calendar. So I'll start with the calendar committee. 30 representatives were invited to be part of that calendar committee. It consisted of district admin, building admin, early education, Kids Safari coordinators, teachers, parents, students, transportation facilities representatives, and we also had 2 board members with us as well. I know there's several that are in attendance that were part of that, and so I want to thank them for their taking part in that. We did have building admins and teachers represented at both the elementary, middle, and high school. Part of this is guided by our CBA, that we have to have at least 1 teacher from each level present at that committee. We did also add another teacher this year as part of the committee compared to what we had last year. And then our meetings were held on November 13th, November 20th, and December 4th. We skipped Thanksgiving because I didn't think people would want to be there for our calendar committee. Some of the considerations that the calendar committee had to take into account was, 1, we need to have 155 student contact days and 171 contract days. That also includes a 5th day option for teachers for those Monday schools. The remaining days, we did have 13 professional development days. 8 of those usually designated as building district, and 5 teacher work time days. 2 of those days, because there is a discrepancy of 2 extra days, but those are part of the teacher conferences that are part of the CBA as well. Since they work those extra hours, those are where those 2 extra days come into play, that fall and spring conferences. Also, due to Missouri law, the first day of school may only be 2 weeks prior to Labor Day. So this year, next year, that means the first day that we could start is August 24th, which is about a week later than what we started this year. This year was August 18th. And then we also need to consider summer school. We held summer school in June, and we need to be able to start and finish. Summer school has to have 19 days in that. So all that kind of comes into play when we were talking about the calendar look like. So some changes this year to the calendar. We did add 2 professional development days prior to the start of the school year. That was voted on by the calendar committee. Part of that reasoning that came to us was providing more opportunities for professional development and teachers to prepare for their classrooms for the start of school. There was emphasis at the elementary school, especially considering they have to meet the teacher that they have to prepare for. Again, I talked about this, but our first day will be the 24th. That's what was decided upon. And again, that's due to the requirement that we start 2 weeks prior to Labor Day. PD days were taken out of this during our parent-teacher conference time. And so part of the reasoning with that was teachers on the committee and others discussed that there was concerns about the length of those teacher conferences weeks. So they usually have, right now, they have a PD day, and then we have our parent conferences, but then they also work those extra hours. So to kind of think about that, it's almost like a 6-day work week for our teachers. So we've taken those out, so now they will work those extra hours. It was more of a 5-day week, 4 days with those extra hours involved in there. So help alleviate some of those long weeks for our teachers and all those paras and everybody else that's involved in those. School will be in session as of now on December 21st and 22nd. That was voted on by the calendar committee. There's a couple reasons why we looked at this. Due to the necessity of having to start late, there's a noticeable imbalance in instructional days between first and second semester. This imbalance especially would affect the secondary levels. We think about our secondary or semester courses. So adding 2 days prior to the winter break helps lengthen that first semester and reduce that disparity a little bit. With the proposed calendar, the first semester would be 71 days and second semester would be 84 days. To just kind of give you this year, give you some comparison, this year first semester was 74 and second semester was 81. Additionally, by including the 21st and 22nd, one of the things the committee talked about was considering that commitment to our voters for the supported 4-day week. We know we had feedback from families and staff about more consistent 4-day weeks. So while we do increase the number of days for first semester to kind of help that disparity, it also allows us to go from 5 student contact weeks throughout the year to 3 5-day student contact weeks, and there'll be none second semester. And then I've kind of talked about this already, but that reduction of the 5-day weeks from the 3-day weeks, again, by reducing that number of 5-day weeks, it allows for more consistency within our calendar. The first 2 weeks will be 5-day student weeks to allow schools to work with students upon return to establish, practice, reinforce expectations along with starting curriculum. The final 5-day week will occur on the week of December 14th. This still allows for a full week of grading, supportive assessment at the high school level, and there's no 5-day student weeks during that second semester for our teachers and students as well. So that's kind of the reasoning for the calendar. So you have the proposed calendar in front of you, and I'm happy to take questions.
I will say, Dr. Plater, I'll interject here. The late start day has been a conversation across the state with districts because it's a big deal. And so I know there are districts around the area and our Greater Cooperating School Districts Association looking at submitting a letter requesting a waiver for just this school year to see if we could potentially start on the 18th. So we will wait to see what happens. I know there are several school districts in the Boot Hill area 4-day weeks that I did submit a letter with. They've yet to hear back. They did submit that to the DESE to see, request the waiver. However, we have not heard back. So more school districts joining on board because it's really hard to late and it ties our hands. So requesting that for just 1 year. We'll see what happens. I don't know. But if that is the case, then Dr. Plater would have the privilege to reconvene the committee and see what happens. But we've been trying, and that was done. We submitted the letter with the southern state or school districts right around in December, correct? Yeah. So we'll wait and see what happens. So I just want to add that as well. So. That was one of the reasons, but also to have conversations with the PD committee because one of the conversations that came out of calendar committee was additional days at the beginning. And so what could that look like? And having those conversations to say, hey, what we've done this year works well. I know a survey was distributed to staff, and I believe Dr. Boatwright's in here, and I'm going to put her on the spot for the PD committee. We sent the survey out regarding the structure of PD. How many respondents did we have?
We had over 500 responses.
So almost 50%. So we have about 1,000 teachers, and that's who would have filled out that survey. And what percentage of those staff of those respondents stated they liked the structure of the days?
92% said they liked this year's structure of the split PD day with half work day.
Gotcha. And so what we wanted to do, I'm sorry, I'm talking, Dr. Boatwright should be coming up here and doing this. Dr. Boatwright, would you like to come up and talk about how that was decided with the PD committee in conjunction with honoring what was agreed to last school year? Last school year with the third addendum to the the structure of how PD was decided in
Yes.
buildings. Yeah.
So we had some conversation around, so we wanted to poll our staff because it was a new structure this year in an effort to have more work time spread out throughout the school year. That was part of the rationale behind splitting that. Also, there was feedback in past that sometimes a 6-hour PD day can be a lot. And so there was time needed to digest the learning. And so we would have learning in the morning and then teacher work time in the afternoon. And so we did want to poll our staff and ensure that we were reading the feedback correctly. And so we had 92% of our staff who said that yes, they did like the structure. They did provide some feedback on just some things to consider moving forward, which we did take that back to the PD committee. I don't have it right in front of me right now. But in the end, it came down to sometimes the needs of elementary and secondary are very different. As Dr. Plater had mentioned that the Meet the Teacher Night is at the elementary level. That is not at the secondary level. At the end of quarters, when elementary prepare grade cards, we do not prepare grade cards at the end of the quarter for secondary because they are on semesters. So just considering the various needs of each of those groups, we landed that there would be some autonomy given to buildings to structure how they want some of those PD days to fall. So August the 13th and 14th, and then the 18th and 19th, I believe that's a Tuesday and Wednesday. Those are given to the buildings for their building leadership teams to decide how they want those to look. Do they want 2 full work days on the 13th and 14th? Would they like to divide those up between the building PD and teacher workday, or an all-day building or an all-day workday? So we felt like that helped to be a nice compromise in allowing buildings the opportunity to have some of that autonomy. And then sprinkled throughout the rest of the year, the cross-district days, we had to, those couldn't be moved because that impacts all grade levels. We have some content areas that meet together K-12. And so we needed to ensure that on a cross-district day that those were set, and so buildings would not have the ability to adjust those. There are, I believe, 3 days in second semester, and I say days, let me preface that. So a day consists of an AM and a PM time. There are 3 times, I believe, in second semester where the building still had autonomy to decide, do they want this to be a work day, or would they, that half of the day, or would they like that to be building? And so that was well received. They have until May 8th, I believe, for those building leadership teams to come together and decide how they want to use them.
Quick question, and just a point of clarity, for the survey respondents, 500 plus respondents out of the 1,000?
500. It was 499.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not mean to be that
No, that's
technical,
all right.
I promise.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be clear, 92% of the respondents were, sorry.
Correct.
So not of our staff, right? Just,
Of those who responded.
got it.
Yep.
Okay, cool beans, thank you.
I wanted to ask, Dr. Plater talked about what comprises the calendar committee and 30, and what all comprises the PD committee, and then kind of what happens if there is a conflict between the PD committee and the calendar committee on how things are supposed to lay out?
Well, in response to your second question, we've not had that. We've been fortunate. But the first one is there is a representative from every building at every grade level on that committee. So there's a voice from all schools and all grade levels.
So is that like, how many grade schools do we have? 30?
20 elementaries.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we have 20 elementaries. We have all middle schools represented, all high school represented. And then IA actually has 2 representatives because they have an elementary and a secondary. So again, just understanding that the needs can be different sometimes, we want to make sure that those voices are heard. Yeah.
And regarding the committee composition, about how many, like what percentage are 9-month employees? Do we have an idea of what that is?
Which committee are you talking, PD or calendar?
No, sorry, the calendar committee, just because that had come up, is that?
For 9-month, I would say, well, we had 6 teachers. Those are probably comprised, and so it'd be 1 out of 5, so 20% or so. is what I'd say.
The rest would be administrators and students
Administrators,
and
there's
parents.
administrators, there's parents, 3 students, we had high school students from each high school as part of it. We had 2 representatives from, we had one from facilities, 1 from transportation as part of their CBA as well, negotiated. I'm sorry, yes, transportation, they would have been, yeah, my apologies.
Also, is there an opportunity for all staff to weigh in? Like, is there a survey put out with 3 different calendars?
No, the way we established it, the first meeting was coming together, kind of talking about the process. And I'm going to give Dr. Latham, I don't know if he's here or not, but I stole his process from last year. So the first is just presenting that. We had a tool that they could go, it was a Google Doc basically, where they can enter teacher day and teacher contract day and student contact day. And so that counted it up for them, the people that are participating. So anybody had the opportunity to make a calendar. They can go back, get feedback at that point. We come back the second time. Those that wanted to do a calendar, they presented their calendar, had some discussion, they could go back and get feedback. Then we came back the third time. We put together kind of 2 calendars with multiple, just kind of taking ideas from all of them, kind of looked at those and then made a decision from there. But there wasn't anything necessarily sent to all staff regarding those.
Was there a discussion about snow day makeup, AMI?
The only discussion we have is we followed basically the process for this year. We knew that this year we were making up the 5 snow days, and then the next 5 would be AMI. I don't know what that'll look like next year, so when I talked to the calendar committee, we just kind of went with what we know was accepted this year, and we're going to follow that next year. Now that may change, and that's fine. So we did indicate 5 snow makeup days in there, but again, that's not really our decision to make how that'll be used, but if that leadership makes that decision, then certainly we don't necessarily have to use those. But we marked them just so they were there.
Was there feedback, or has there been a survey about, obviously we're kind of still in the middle of winter, so maybe a little preemptive, but I would like to know staff's opinion if they would like to change that structure.
I don't know that there's been any survey sent out regarding that.
No. I would say I do know we had 2 board members who served on the committee. I want to give them a chance for them to share their thoughts and ideas about how the process went, because it did take a lot of time. So we had 3 meetings, so thank you.
I'd be happy to. A lot of what I kind of plan to say has been said, but I've been on this committee now for probably 8 years or so, and several of the people, concerning the calendar makeup, the committee makeup, several of those people place different roles. We have teachers and administrators who are also parents, so I feel like we do have a good, a well-rounded group of people there. I've been thoroughly impressed. You talked about Dr. Latham and his calendar tool, and I've been thoroughly impressed these last 2 or 3 years with the efficiency, the organization, collaboration, communication, all the words of this committee. Everybody has an opportunity for a voice, and Dr. Plater mentioned this calendar. They can take it home, create their own calendar, and come back and share it in depth with the group, which was very interesting to me. And then everybody has a chance. They come together at the end and put together a calendar, these 30 people, and that has not always been the case. So I really appreciate that. It's a voice for everyone in that way. I know that the December 21st and 22nd days it's a struggle every year. The holiday schedule, the semester, the days in the semester. I think before I was on this committee, I didn't realize the big discrepancy in the number of days between first and second. And that really affects secondary schools. So it's a real struggle, and I do appreciate this year the district's commitment to try to make our 4-day weeks more consistent. I know that's important to our stakeholders, so I do appreciate that. What I will say is that with this new structure, whatever we have now does not mean that it will be in place forever. So maybe for, we have tried things the last 2 or 3 years, and, maybe they didn't work. They've made tweaks and come back the next year. So it's kind of a give and take every year. So calendar is important to everyone and every single person in this district. So I just appreciate everybody's work and flexibility.
I would have to agree. I was thoroughly impressed with what I experienced at the calendar committee meeting. Lots of discussion, lots of ideas, lots of collaboration, and I think that, again, just thoroughly impressed with the work that is being done. Quite intimidated to go home and make my own calendar, so I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm not your guy, okay? But glad to have had the option. But I do have some questions here. So I manage a bank in my personal life, and surveys come out often, okay? My manager reaches out to me to tell my staff, cascade this down to your team to make sure they, do the survey, because that's how change happens. And so I'm just interested to know, what is our approach to encourage our staff to actually do the survey? I would really love to see that more than half of the staff persons are actually, or teachers at least, are doing the surveys, because this is in some ways how we leverage change in their voices. And so is there like reminders that go out, or are principals encouraging teams to do this?
I don't know, I could speak to the PD one specifically. I could tell you that other, surveys that we send out, that certainly, we try to reinforce that with our teachers or whoever's supposed to be doing it, whether it be paras or students and so forth. We have several that go out. We do send reminders. I don't know what was sent out for the PD one, if you want to speak to that or not.
We try to be strategic when we send it out. So if we know that teachers have work time, sending it out during that typically yields a higher return because they are at their computers versus it getting buried in a workday. But yes, and then leaving it open, sending reminders to PDC reps, and our building principals about the survey. I think 50% is a really high return,
Yes.
considering a lot of what some of those that we've had, and we might get 20% back. So that was encouraging that we had over half, about half our staff.
I know in many instances when students are filling out, we'll have them do it either during class or homeroom or those types of things, so to try to encourage that.
Yeah, I recognize people are busy, especially teachers. I mean, having someone do another survey can be quite daunting. I mean, I get it. So I just love to see voices heard, as we all do, and people being, considered throughout this process. So again, I join you in celebrating the amount of respondents, and hopefully that number continues to increase over time. So.
I have one more thing. Along that line, part of the responsibility of being on the calendar committee is taking back each week the ideas that were submitted or the possible calendars to their buildings, to their departments. Students, we get great feedback from the students who are on there. They talk to their peers about, what do you think about this and that? So that is part of the responsibility. I, would encourage anyone, that could be board members, stakeholders, anyone, to, if you have ideas through the years or through the year, things that don't work, take it to, I don't know who, maybe somebody in HR could direct you to the right person, or maybe an INEA rep. I think they have several spots on the calendar committee, so.
We're losing our sound system's going a little crazy. I just want to acknowledge, because I did count, and it's, if we, by losing those first 2 days of the holiday week in December, as teacher work days and attendance days, obviously teacher work days with attendance, it's 16 versus 12. So I'm hopeful this is the first I've heard about asking for a waiver, and that's fantastic. And hopefully the state of Missouri is kind, because this calendar stinks just with the way, not this particular one presented to us. I mean, the calendar in general. Sorry. I mean, the 2026 full year calendar, just when you're thinking about holidays and how it lines up. So I apologize, that didn't come out right. But just the timing of the holidays and the 2 weeks before Labor Day, it's not set up well for anything. I do appreciate the commitment to the 5-day weeks, or the 4-day weeks, because I'm all messing up all the words tonight, because if we are going to be a 4-day school week district, then let's be a 4-day school week district, so I appreciate that as well. But I hope that those 2 days in December, the 21st and the 22nd, I hope that those are the first things to come back if we do get that waiver, because 16 days versus 12 days, when education is hard, and we don't have a spring break, we don't have other breaks through the years or throughout the school year. So I think it's important that we leverage what we can get where we can get it. And if we can get those full 2 weeks, just helps everybody morale, feeling good, coming back ready for the second semester. I think that that's super important.
I can echo what Director Baird just said. And also echo the struggle with this upcoming school year's calendar. We had similar discussions on our committee in Liberty, and it is just with the restraint of our start at school and really trying to make equal number of days in the first and second semester, it is difficult. And I can also attest to what that attendance will look like December 21st and 22nd. As a high school teacher. So that is where it really is unfortunate, because then as an educator, it's really difficult to plan for your finals knowing that you're going to have students that are going to say, well, my family decided that we would take a vacation.
Any other discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Speak now. Motion passes. Alrighty, we have covered a plethora of material this evening. Thank you for bearing with us. Lots of passion, Director Baird, shared tonight. Thank you everyone for sharing and asking wonderful questions. I want to remind everyone that our next regular Board of Education meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, March the 10th, 2026. At 6 p.m. So we look forward to seeing you here, and bring a friend with you next time. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session.
I move to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Missouri State Statute for Personnel Issues 610.021 subparagraph 3, legal matters 610.021 subparagraph 1, real estate 610.021 subparagraph 2, and students 610.021 subparagraph 6.
Roll call. Yes.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you.